The first time I saw her, she was standing at the edge of the nebula bridge, alone, colossal, and utterly still. Her eyes reflected the stars like twin galaxies, and her skin shimmered with the faint glow of crystal veins. Her name was Aurelia Thane, last of the Titanborn. They said her kind had been extinct for centuries. They said she was a monster, but to me, she was magnificent. I was Commander Ryan Solis, captain of the ISS Valiant, sent to broker peace between the human coalition and the remnants of the Titanborn Dominion. My orders were clear: secure her cooperation, or eliminate her threat. But when I met her, I couldn't follow those orders. The giant who chose exile Aurelia stood over 80 feet tall. Her world, Empress, was a ruin of crumbled citadels and dead oceans. Once her people had ruled half the Orion Arm, until the wars came. The Titanborn were bred for power, not mercy, and when their empire fell, the galaxy erased them. Now only she remained, a relic surrounded by ghosts. "You shouldn't be here." "Human?" she said, her voice a thunderous echo across the canyon. "Your ships poisoned my sky once. Leave before I crush you like the rest." Her words were sharp, but her tone trembled, a kind of sorrow that struck deeper than fear. "I didn't come to fight," I said, raising my hands. "The Coalition wants peace. And maybe, I just wanted to see if the stories were true." Her vast eyes narrowed. "Which stories?" "That giants could still be beautiful." For a long moment, silence hung between us, thick as the air before a storm. And then, to my surprise, the corner of her lips curved. Not a smile exactly, but something close. 2. The bridge between worlds. Over the next few days, I stayed. My crew orbited overhead, sending me supplies and warnings, but I ignored them. I built a small outpost near the canyon's edge, while Aurelia watched from a distance. Cautious, curious, wounded. At night, when the twin moons rose, she would sit beside the cliffs, her enormous form silhouetted against the silver light. I'd light a small fire and we'd talk, her voice like thunder, mine like a whisper in comparison. She told me of her people's fall, of how the Titanborn grew too proud, too violent, of how their gods abandoned them, and how she had survived by refusing to fight. "They called me weak," she said once, her gaze lost among the stars. "A giant who refused to crush. A titan who wanted peace." I looked up at her. "Maybe weakness is just strength that refuses to harm." She glanced down at me then, her expression unreadable. "You talk like no human I've met." "I'm not like most," I said softly. Her lips parted, as if she wanted to answer, but she turned away. 3. The human who stayed days turned into weeks. I studied her, not as a scientist, but as a man who couldn't help being drawn to something larger than life itself. I learned how her crystalline blood shimmered with energy, how she could hear my heartbeat even from 100 meters away, how she'd sing sometimes softly, her voice shaking the dust from ancient ruins. But the more I learned, the more I saw her loneliness. "Why do you stay here?" I asked one night. "You could go anywhere," she shook her head. "Everywhere I go, they fear me. Even the stars whisper my name like a curse. I am a monster in every tongue." "You're not a monster," I said. Her vast hand lowered, fingers larger than trees, stopping just inches above me. I could feel the hum of her energy, warm and alive. "Then what am I to you, Ryan Solis?" she asked. I swallowed hard. "Someone worth saving, fool. The war returns, peace never lasts." The Coalition Command intercepted our transmissions. They saw Aurelia not as a miracle, but as a weapon. A fleet was coming. They called it Operation Leviathan. Their goal: neutralize the Titan threat. When I received the message, my heart sank. Aurelia heard the alarms from orbit and turned her gaze toward the sky. "They're coming, aren't they?" I nodded. "They'll destroy everything if they find you." She smiled sadly. "Then let them come. I have nothing left to lose." "Don't say that," I pleaded. "You have me." Her eyes widened slightly, as if no one had ever said those words to her before. "You would fight your own people for me?" she asked quietly. "If it means saving you, yes." For a moment, her enormous hand trembled. Then, with a motion so gentle it made my breath catch, she placed her palm flat on the ground beside me, a silent offering of trust. Then stand with me, little one, she said. We faced the storm together. The last stand, the fleet arrived at dawn. Skyfire rained down on the ruins of Empress, hundreds of ships, their engines burning bright against the ash clouds. The ground shook as the first strikes hit. Aurelia rose, her full height casting a shadow across the valley. I'd never seen anything so powerful, or so heartbreakingly alone. She tore through the first wave like a goddess of old, her hands glowing with energy, her roar echoing across the planet. But for every ship she crushed, 3 more descended. I screamed into the comms, "This is Commander Solace! Cease fire! She's not hostile." They ignored me. When one of the cruisers locked onto her chest with a plasma cannon, I didn't think, I just acted. I flew my fighter straight into the beam's path, jamming its targeting system. My ship disintegrated instantly, but it was enough to disrupt the shot. I ejected, crashing into the sands below. Through the smoke, I saw her fall to one knee, wounded, her crystal veins dimming.
She looked at me, a human ant standing before a dying star. Why?
She whispered, her voice barely a breath now. "Because I love you," I said. The sky burned. Her eyes softened. And with the last of her strength, she cupped her massive hand around me, shielding me from the blast that followed. Then everything went dark. The light. After death, when I woke, I was surrounded by silence and light. The bombardment had stopped. My radio buzzed with static. And where Aurelia had stood, there was nothing but a vast crater glittering with crystal dust. I thought she was gone. I fell to my knees, but then I heard it, faint like a heartbeat beneath the soil, and there she was, her body half buried, broken but alive. Barely. "You still breathe," I said, choking on the words. Her vast eyes flickered open, their glow dim but steady. "You proved me wrong," she whispered. "Maybe even a giant can be loved." Tears blurred my vision. I pressed my palm to her fingertip, smaller than a nail to her, yet it felt like the most sacred touch in the galaxy. "Always," I said. "I'll never stop." She smiled then, truly smiled, and even the dying sun seemed to rise again. Soon, the promise among stars. We escaped Empress before the fleet could return. I used the wreckage of my fighter to rebuild a communication link, and together we called for aid, not from the coalition, but from the outer conquered. A neutral alliance of wanderers and outcasts. They didn't see a monster when they met her. They saw a survivor. Now, months later, we drift among the stars aboard the Aurora, a ship built to carry both human and Titan. She can't move freely in most systems. She's too large. Too luminous, but in the dark void between worlds. We walk side by side. Sometimes she laughs when I try to hold her finger like it's her hand. Sometimes I fall asleep in the curve of her palm, her heartbeat echoing like a distant drum. And sometimes when the stars pass by like falling snow, she whispers, "You really are a fool, Ryan Solace." "Maybe," I say, "but I'm your fool." Tight. Epilogue. The legend of the giant's heart centuries from now. Travelers will pass through the Empress system and find a monument floating among the ruins. A colossal heart carved from living crystal, glowing faintly with blue light. They'll say it belonged to the last Titanborn. That she fell in love with a human who refused to fear her, and that their love changed the course of 2 civilizations. But the truth is simpler. She said no one could love a giant, and I proved her wrong.